Caitlin and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be going over all of the books that I read this past winter, starting from like late December to March 19th, I believe was the last day of winter. And then I am also going to list all of the books that I am hoping to read this spring. Both lists are pretty long, so I'm just gonna jump right into it. This is how many books I read in the winter, which to me, it doesn't feel like that many, but like looking physically at how many books there are here, that's kind of insane. And I'm very proud of myself. Even if there are, I'm sure, plenty of YouTubers and TikTokers that read like 3 times more than I do, generally. I don't care. I'm proud of myself. So the first book that I read this winter was Reckless by Elsie Silver. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. One thing that Elsie Silver loves doing with this series specifically is the miscommunication trope, and this book only does it one time, which was incredible and amazing and so nice. Also, this book probably had my favorite male main character of the entire series. I really loved that all the storylines from like even the first book were finally getting tied together with a nice little bow. I don't think it's necessarily my favorite from the series, but it is definitely up there, maybe number 2. The next book I read in winter was The Holiday Switch by, where are you? By Tiff Marcello. I don't know why I couldn't just read it down here. I really had to read it on the spine, but that's fine. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I'm not sure if it actually is, but if you told me that this book was originally on Wattpad and then was turned into a book, I would believe you. Also, I understand that this is like a YA novel, a young adult novel, but there's nothing that irritates me more than like replacement cuss words, and this book had a lot of them. Granted, they were like holiday themed, so arguably it was fine, but at the same time, it was just so like irritating. This is also a significantly shorter book than I would generally read, and that is probably part of the reason that it felt so rushed. It was a nice mind-numbing holiday read, but it wasn't all that great, honestly. Next, we have Bad Blood by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This book got 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I love this series so much. You would have to pry it out of my cold, dead hands. I think this might be one of my favorite series at the moment, if not of all time, honestly. And that's saying something because I have a lot of favorite series. One thing that I absolutely love about this book and this series as a whole is that once the main character decided between like one person and the love triangle she was in, it was never tested. Like, there are some love triangle books that will continue to come back to that love triangle and try to convince us that, like, the person that she didn't pick in the first book is actually the one she's in love with. None of that happened in this series, and I adore that. I appreciate that so much. I think the only problem I had with this book is that the ending felt very rushed, especially because of how much time we had to resolve it, if that makes sense. Like, it just felt like the end of the series, like the ending climax lasted like a singular page, maybe 2. So that's really my only beef with this book. The next book I read was a kind of novella that's actually at the end of this book. It is called 12, and it is, again, by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I also gave that book 4 out of 5 stars. After I finished the book, I read a couple of reviews on Goodreads that, like, said that this novella felt kind of pointless. And to that I say, aren't all novellas kind of pointless? Like, isn't that kind of the point, just to, like, continue on the story, but not have it be, like, this huge thing that like completely changes the trajectory of like the universe as a whole? I personally loved this book so much. There's nothing that I love more than like getting a little bit of extra content from a series that I really love, so I ate it up, truthfully. Next up, I fear this one is going to be a little controversial. I read Normal People by Sally Rooney, and I gave it 2 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I think my review on Goodreads literally is just, did I read the same book as everyone else? Because I feel like I'm always hearing people raving about this book and how much they loved it, but I thought it was like mediocre at best, which was kind of devastating because I went into this book with really high expectations. And I think part of the reason I so heavily dislike this book is because I read to escape, and this book was incredibly real in like all of the concepts and topics that it covered. So didn't love that. Really would have preferred if it was more like, oh, everyone gets a happy ending. But no, that is not what happened. Moving on. Next, I read Spiral by Bal Cabra. I'm saying that wrong. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I ended up giving this book 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I absolutely love a hockey romance book. Again, I will say you can pry them out of my cold dead hands. I somehow always forget how much I love a hockey romance book until I'm like actively reading one, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this. This should be the only thing that I read. And then I will go months without reading one, and then I'll pick up another one and have that exact reaction, basically. I will say this is the second in a series, and while the star amount that I gave both of the books in this series is the same, this one was significantly better written and just like better in general. The next book that I read was the last one in a series, and it was Hopeless by Elsie Silver. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. For this entire series, the author somehow incorporates the title of the book into it at least once, but this is the only time that I audibly gasped when it happened, which is funny because it's the last book, but like that moment was just so intense and so perfect that when it happened, I literally couldn't help but like out loud. It was hilarious. Also, one of my favorite tropes, fake dating, was in this book, and I love that so much. So good. I eat it up every time. One thing that I absolutely adored about this book is that both of the main characters had these dreams set in their mind that they wanted to do, even if they like figured them out at the beginning of the book or if they had always known them their entire life. Neither of them compromised those dreams in order to be together, and I absolutely love seeing that in books and stuff. The next book that I read was the first in a duology, and it is The Stolen Heir by Holly Black. This book got 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I think it's really interesting how similar the main character in this book, Ren, and the main character in the original series of The Cruel Prince, Jude's, like, childhoods were. They were both raised by human families, and then they were both taken away from those families at a very young age. And then going on to resent those people that took them away from their families for the rest of their lives. Also, this isn't necessarily related to this book specifically, but I think it would be really fun and interesting to see like a perspective of someone who grew up in Elfheim, however you say where they live, and like actually enjoyed it. Because you do kind of see a couple of characters that have lived in the fairyland for their entire lives, but they don't love it. So I think it would be kind of interesting to see that perspective. Next up, I read Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Mellers. And this book was actually the first 5 stars on Goodreads of this entire stack. And I honestly wasn't sure I was going to even get one for this season. And what's so interesting about that is that halfway through this book, I was really convinced that I was going to give it like 3 stars at most. And then by the end of it, I was absolutely in love and absolutely obsessed and sad and happy and all of those amazing feelings all at once. So I just love this book. It's really good. Also, can I just say, I need to get this off my chest, the sugar glider plotline, how that ended, almost made me throw up a little bit. Gonna be honest, it almost made me puke. Like sick to my stomach. I was very upset, but it's fine. We move on. And back to the part where I was talking about how like halfway through, I thought that I was gonna rate this super low. I'm genuinely shocked that by the time I finished this book, I didn't hate any of the characters. Like, as weird as that is, I didn't hate any of them, not even the people that are like the worst. And I really loved kind of seeing how all of the characters changed over time, how some of the characters that you thought would like never change finally did, and how some of the characters you never thought would go down a bad path did as well. The second to last book that I read this winter is All Good People Here by Ashley Flowers. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I read this entire book in basically 24 hours, or maybe under 24 hours, which felt really good because I haven't done that in a really long time. I was shocked by almost every single plot twist until like 3/4 of the way into the book. And then I wasn't really shocked by anything else, but I love being shocked by a book. I love it when it's unpredictable. It's great. So that was a huge plus. But it did end on a cliffhanger, which I hate in standalone mystery novels because I'm never gonna find out what happened next, and so the story just feels incomplete, which sucks. And lastly, The Prisoner's Throne by Holly Black was the last book that I read this winter. I ended up giving this book 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I did end up liking this book a lot more than The Stolen Heir, which I'm kind of shocked about. But I also really like Oak as a main character, so not that shocked. It kind of threw me off guard how quickly the endings came about in actually both of the books in this duology, but this one specifically. Also, I have to get it off my chest. I absolutely love Oak so much. He's never done anything wrong, except for when he obviously has. And Ren is also perfect and has never done anything wrong, except for when she has. And that's all. So that is all the books that I read this winter. Now to get into the books that I will be reading, or hopefully reading this spring. Other than this first book that I am going to show off, I don't plan to read any of these books in any particular order. However, the first one that I am absolutely going to read is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. It is the newest Hunger Games book, and I love the Hunger Games. I've already heard from so many people that this book is absolutely amazing and terrifyingly devastating. So I'm excited, to say the least. The next book that I'm hoping to read this spring is Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. This has been on my TBR for a really long time, and for some reason, something about the cover is like convincing me that this is not gonna have a happy ending, but I literally checked online and it does. So unless Google is lying to me, which is possible, I guess, I won't be devastated by this book. So I'm very excited to jump into it. Another book that I'm hoping to read this spring is Two Can Keep a Secret by Karen M. McManus. I love Karen McManus so much as an author. I think she's incredible, so very excited to read another one of her books. Next up, we have another hockey romance novel, and that is Unsteady by Peyton Corney. Corney. We're gonna pretend I said that last name right. I'm pretty sure there is also a second book in this series that is out now, but I'm gonna read this one first, decide if I like the writing style or if I like this series, and then go from there, I think. Another book that I'm really looking forward to read this spring is Butcher and Blackbird by Brynn Weaver. I have heard so many good things about this series, and hopefully it's not too dark. because I don't really like a dark romance, but I can do like morally gray. I know that this is about serial killers, by the way, so I'm not going into this completely blind thinking that this is gonna be a walk in the park. I love the concept of this book, and also, if I like this book, I'm very excited to read the rest in this series as well. The next book that I'm hoping to read this spring is called Picking Daisies on Sundays, and it is by Leanne Sincotti. By that name. I'm so bad with names. I swear I'm so bad with names. It's not even funny. I love a cute little romance novel. I think this sounds so cute and sweet. And admittedly, I did judge this book by its cover. So I have kind of high expectations because I think it's absolutely adorable, but only time will tell. Another book that I am so excited to read this spring is called Wings of Starlight by Allison Saft, and it is about the Disney princess, not the Disney princess, the Disney fairies, Queen Clarion, and this guy. It's like their backstory, like that's never talked about in the movies. When I saw that this book existed, oh my God, I ran to my closest bookstore as fast as I could because I have always wondered what their backstory is, what their deal is, and now I'm getting to read it. I'm so excited. I'm so excited I could cry. And the last book that I am going to hopefully read this spring, I actually don't have a physical copy of yet because it's not out as of right now, but that book is Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry, and hopefully there is a picture of it right here-ish. I will always love and support Emily Henry because I think her writing is just so spectacular, and also I love the concept of the book coming up. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for all of my spring reads and very hopeful that I will be able to read more than what I have laid out for myself. That is all that I have for today's video. I would love for you to comment down below any books that you have on your spring TBR, any books that you've been kind of like saving or holding off on reading for the spring or like summery season, because I know I do that all the time where I like hold off certain books until like the autumn until autumn or summer because I just think it would match the vibe better. I love doing that. So you should definitely comment down below some books that you are going to be reading this season. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!